Hey guys, it's Kenny here with the Fantasy Golf Degenerates and the FantasyFanatics.com, bringing you my cash game cornerstones for the John Deere Classic. Now, I've been off for a couple weeks, so instead of the usual recap, let's just go straight to the course. The John Deere Classic is played at TPC Deere Run in Silvis, Illinois. It's usually one of the 10 to 15 easiest courses on tour year in and year out. Winning scores have reached 26 under par here in the past, and routinely the winning score is in the 20 under par range. So it's going to be a birdie fest. The course is not overly long, and there are 3 par 5s, which should be reachable in 2 by most golfers in the field. So eagle opportunities will be prevalent. The par 4 14th can be reachable off the tee as well if the right conditions exist. The fairways are wide here. Over 70% of all tee shots find the short grass. There will be a lot of wedges and short irons onto these easy-to-hit greens. Good putters have fared well here in the past. So basically, to succeed on this course, you need to hit fairways, be good with wedges and short irons, take advantage of the par 5s, and putt well. Sounds simple enough, but you know, golf never goes as planned. One interesting stat about this course is that since 2008, in 2008, the people who run the tournament got really tired of all the super weak fields that they had. So they decided, you know, this tournament's always before the Open Championship, the week before. So they decided to set up a jet chartering service for golfers that'll leave the airport right by the John Deere Classic right after the round on Sunday and head straight across the pond to the Open Championship. Since they did this, they've gotten a little bit more bigger names to play this tournament, but it's still definitely a weak field. Now, the one thing that did change is that the bigger names seem to have taken over and started winning early. Since this tournament started in the 2000s, it was a bunch of no-names, a bunch of first-time winners that won. But since this jet chartering service started in 2008, 8 of the last 10 winners here have been ranked inside the top 50 in the official World Golf Rankings. 7 of these 10 golfers that won were actually ranked inside the top 20. The only 2 winners who weren't top 50 when they won here were Jordan Spieth and Brian Harman, who are now both firmly entrenched in the top 30 in the World Golf Rankings. Just something to think about, especially if you are a betting type. The stats I'm looking for this week are going to be birdie or better percentage, strokes gained approach, strokes gained putting, which I'm actually weighing a little bit more than I normally do. Usually it's like my last stat that I look at. It's getting a little bit of a bump up this week. And proximity from 100 to 150 yards. On the FantasyFanatics.com cheat sheet, I'll be weighing stats at 45%, current form at 30%, and course history at 25%. So now, let's get on to the picks. First up, it's going to be Kyle Stanley at $9,600. Hopefully Kyle celebrated his ass off last week after his first tour victory, and he's coming in focused on a course where he's had plenty of success at. He played here 7 times in his career with 6 made cuts and 4 top 25s. He's a birdie maker, hits his wedges well, is accurate off the tee, and hits a ton of greens. His downfall is his putter, but he's actually pretty good in putts inside of 15 feet. His troubles come on the longer putts. The good thing about him is he's first in overall proximity in the field during his last 12 rounds. He's been dialing it in with his irons recently, and really throughout the whole year, he's been exceptional with his irons. Hopefully he keeps this up and doesn't leave himself too many long putts this week. Even if he does, I still think at worst he makes the cut, and that's what you're looking for in cash games here for the John Deere Classic. Now, you normally would think with a field like this, the chalk usually hits all the time, but the one thing you do have to remember, last year, only about 5 to 6% of lineups got 6 of 6 through, so it's not as easy as it looks when you look at this field. Next pick, it's going to be Ben Martin at $8,300. Now, Martin's been on a solid run recently, making 7 straight cuts with 2 top 20s in that span. He probably would have had 3 top 20s if he didn't have one of the worst lies I think I've ever seen in my life during the 3rd round. I think it was the 4th hole during the 3rd round last week at Greenbrier. I was listening to it on the radio, and the announcer said that it was actually one of the worst lies he'd ever seen in the whole time he's been an announcer at the Greenbrier Classic. So he tripled that hole and sort of led to a bit of a downfall for that round. But the other 3 rounds he did fine. His year-long stats aren't the best, but in his last 24 rounds played, he's 6th in the field in strokes gained approach, 24th in the field in strokes gained putting, 7th in the field in total DraftKings points, 2nd in total birdies, 16th in proximity from 100 to 125 yards, and 8th in proximity from 200 plus yards, which will be useful on the par 5s. He finished 2nd here last year, and I think he can contend again this year. My third pick, it's going to be Chad Campbell at $7,600. Now, Campbell's made 4 of his last 5 cuts on tour with 3 top 15 finishes on that span, so he's on a bit of a heater. He's a course horse here at TPC Deere Run, making his last 8 cuts with 3 top 15s. He's accurate off the tee, hits a lot of greens, is 33rd for the year in strokes gained approach, and is the 2nd best golfer in the field from 100 to 150 yards. More recently, in his last 12 rounds, he's top 15 in the field in strokes gained approach, strokes gained off the tee, and strokes gained tee to green. He's also 8th in the field in greens and regulation and 15th in the field in fairways hit during that same 12-round span. I'll be using a lot of Chad Campbell this week in both cash and GPPs. My final pick, it's going to be Wesley Bryan at $7,300. His price tag is way too cheap for a golfer of his caliber in this weak of a field. He's inside the top 50 in the World Golf Rankings and has 4 victories since the beginning of 2016. 1 on the PGA Tour and 3 on the Web.com Tour. He's the best golfer in the field when it comes to proximity from 100 to 150 yards. His iron game and his putting is very strong. He struggles off the tee, but hopefully these wide fairways can help him out this week in this department. He was the 36-hole leader here last year and finished in 8th place. He will be my lowest price golfer in my cash lineup. I'm not going lower than him this week. The picks under 7,300, I'm not a big fan of in cash. So more of a balanced lineup this week in cash lineups. People are talking about a fade of him in GPPs because he will be very chalky. But I personally would be overweight on him. And I think he can get his 2nd PGA Tour victory of his young career this week. So let's recap my cash game cornerstone picks for this week's John Deere Classic. They're going to be Kyle Stanley at $9,600, Ben Martin at $8,300, Chad Campbell at $7,600, and Wesley Bryan at $7,300. This will leave you $17,200 under the cap, so you will have plenty of room to fill out the last 2 spots of your lineup. So that's it for this week. Make sure to check out all the cool things this week. Also, check me out on the Pat Mayo Hour, the Open Championship Super Show. It'll be dropping later this week. Good luck, and let's win some money.